Um, Welcome to the May edition on my Patreon page here for the exclusive content. It's Max from Woodman's Finest coming at you here from Austria, and I want to give you, after very multiple requests from people, a boiled down version of the sharpening course that I did yesterday on Boon TV. So if you haven't seen that, I also have a dedicated course page which is called Boon TV/Woodsman's Finest, where I'm doing carving courses that are a lot more in depth, but they also cost, of course, more. So I want to say thank you first of all for still supporting my YouTube channel. I uploaded 2 videos this month, like a while ago, but I'm actually working on a Nick Westerman X forging video, so that is out within the next couple days. It is a very long video. It was over 2.5 hours of footage that I have to go through and cut down into more interesting and smaller, basically compact versions. So you can imagine it takes quite a while, and it's some special footage that I recorded in Wales, so I don't want to mess it up. In any case, so what I want to do today, here on the table, yesterday still from the sharpening course, we have millions of different things. There's Arkansas stones, there's Belgium stones, there's some Japanese and Chinese water stones. And basically what we did yesterday in this 2.5 hour course was really going through all of these, talking about advantages, disadvantages. I don't want to do this today. I want this to be compact and basically a boiled down, digest version of that. Basically, I have used everything, sharpening wise, material wise, that you can imagine. Doesn't matter if it's grinders, rotating stones, and whetstones, or diamond plates, ceramic, Belgium stones, Arkansas stones, which are oil stones, Japanese and Chinese water stones, natural version, man-made, artificial version here in Europe, in Japan. It is out there. I've used it as far as sharpening things. It's pretty simple. Sharpening is an absolute crucial part of carving. There is no way you can get a nice finish, a safe carving experience, because blunt blades are dangerous blades, so we want to keep everything sharp, and efficient carving, which means the safety and efficiency kind of go along. The more you fatigue, the more mistakes you make, the more force you're using if your blades are not completely sharp. And I mean hair popping, hair whittling sharp, and that leads to mistakes, which lead to injuries, just fatigue in general, which can lead to repetitive motion injuries like inflammations, etc., etc. So short, we want everything to be as hair popping sharp as possible. Now, through the years of using all of these materials, it basically has shown itself that there's one kind of material that I love using, that is clean enough, that is readily available, that is cheap, and that is cutting very well. And that basically is a combination of a medium priced diamond stone, a block like this, the hewn and honed sandpaper block with self-adhesive sandpaper going up to 7,000. I think Nick might have it even higher by now, up over 10,000, which is insane. And finishing off with one of my Sloyd strops. You can, in the original version or the bushcraft version here, having 2 sides, the leather going around one round side, and there's another round side here that can also have sharpening compound, polishing compound applied. So if you don't want to have any convexing happening on the inside of your hook knives, you can use the blank wood with just compound attached, which actually I've done here. So if you want to bring this along, which I've done on dozens of trips around the globe, this is what it looks like. Unparalleled I find in mobile. Like I said, it is mobile, it's light, it's compact, it is affordable, it's cutting very well, it's clean, there's not all this mess around, etc., etc. So I don't even want to go too far into that. That is what I'm choosing after using everything on the market. Now, very simple setup. I find what I like using as a simple setup at home is just grabbing one of these clamps, and I think with that knife we can actually start with 1,000 one-handed clamp, very simple, very easy if I don't have a rest, which I usually have for this, but this is just a simple setup. Now when it comes to sharpening, we always have to keep in mind, as you know, like I like using verbal cues, we always have to keep in mind two things. First of all, we want to reprofile and remove material. Reprofile means removing material, and then we have a scratch pattern from this rather coarse stone that we want to refine. And that is a very interesting concept. It's easy to remember. You want to go remove, reprofile, vice versa. It is the same. When you reprofile a bevel, like to a perfect V as we're using it in carving, you're removing material. You have a very rough scratch pattern that is also going right into the edge, where the edge is kind of a sawy pattern and on a microscopic scale. And then we want to refine the scratch pattern as we go through the grits, making it finer and finer and finer and finer. The scratches on the bevels, which also means that the scratches on our very edge is actually, they're getting finer, and then eventually we're gonna polish them off. Now as we're doing this, we kind of keep pushing material back and forth, which is resulting in a burr. The burr is basically material on one side being sharpened over here. It's pushed to the other side. We can feel it over here as we're going over it. It pushed to the other side again, and it becomes finer and finer as we go through the grits until it finally comes off, and it's very often a hair fine, tinfoil thin piece of metal that is just being polished off. Today I've just taken this Reed Schwartz knife here that is doing pretty well, but it's a little bit too convex for my liking. What I like doing here is I'm just taking a little bit of water. Now there's two axes that we actually want to talk about. One of them is the bevel, that is this axis here, or with my hand, if this is the blade here, the axis here where we find the bevel angle. Then we keep this bevel angle always the same, and then we're working on another axis. As we're going through the curve, we have to drop and then lift. As we get to the tip, we have to lift up the knife, but it's completely linear here. We're not changing this angle anymore. So we're not changing this, we're finding the bevel angle here, and then from there on, we use this axis, okay, up and down. So these are the two that we have to think about. Now, I'm just using a little bit of water. It's not a big mess with Japanese stones at all. And what I like using is kind of a stab sharpening, where I'm kind of going back and forth rather than just going along the stone this way and along the stone that way, because this tends actually to make the blade change the bevel angle a little bit to come up. Another thing that I like using through all the grits is a piece of like just Sharpie, and I'm just coloring the bevel. I'm not coloring the flats, just like this. And so I can see where I'm removing material, especially starting out, it's very important to see. So I'm sharpening now. The blade on the edge angling away from me. I'm using my second hand to keep the bevel pressed down, and I'm using my right hand to keep the bevel in the right angle. So I'm wiggling it back and forth until I find the bevel, pushing the handle down first, which is going to sharpen down at the base of the blade, and I'm just kind of stabbing back and forth and kind of pulling towards me, and as I'm coming towards me, I'm also lifting up the handle, which means I'm sharpening towards the tip. And I see I'm already removing the Sharpie, of course. First the handle is pushed down, and then as I'm coming towards me more, I'm lifting the handle up, and I can see the Sharpie is pretty much removed all the way to the edge. It hasn't touched, we're not at the edge yet, which is because it was too much convex, which means I'm not quite touching the edge yet. So I'm just going to do this one more time. Down at the base first, and as I'm coming towards me, I'm lifting up the handle. This is why it's called stab sharpening. It is a quite controlled method. Just using this little kitchen towel here to also remove some of the steel dust, put some more water on. Kitchen towel like this comes in Very handy. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna give it another one. Elbows, everything kind of is tied in, especially the one where I'm holding the knife. My whole body works kind of as a unit. Right there. Now I have really nice and flat bevels over here. I can see the scratch pattern. All the Sharpie is removed. It looks good. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Oops. Can also feel a burr over here slightly. My fingers. Colored just the bevel, using a little bit of water. Same type of stabbing. Keeping the bevel flat against the bench stone and just lifting up my arm a little bit and the handle as we're getting towards the tip. Not too much, you don't want to round the tip off too much. Good, a little bit more. Water. And there you go. All the Sharpie is removed. Bevel is nice and flat. And I feel a slight burr again on the other side. So now basically push the burr back on the other side, which means I now can get rid of this. Can move over here to my sharpening block. And what I like doing with this, that's all the self-adhesive sandpaper. I can really long sharpen all of this sandpaper or sharpen with the sandpaper before I have to exchange it, so it's actually not as wasteful as one would think. Now, I like placing that on a wet kitchen towel because it actually really helps the slipping. You can also use a rubber mat, but this is something everybody has at home. Now also with the sandpaper, I'm starting with 1200. Actually just using a tad of water, not much. You can see there's really no mess happening here with this method. Putting it all the way to the edge. Just starting again with the side facing towards me. Doing the same thing, stab sharpening, pushing the handle down at first, keeping the bevels flat, using my whole body together, and as I'm coming towards the tip, keep wiggling until I find the bevel, keep going slow. As I'm going towards the tip, I'm really concentrating on not stabbing into the material, and then I'm dropping the handle back down so I can sharpen all the way to the base. Having a quick look. Now I can see the same scratches all over the whole blade, which means all the scratches from the former method and from the former grit is actually refined and removed. So looking at the tip, it needs some extra work, which means I'm gonna really concentrate, finding the right angle and just working the tip a little bit. And what I find in this so interesting and attractive about this specific method and setup is that this hewn and honed block is very affordable, very versatile, it's very quick to change. I'm gonna do the other side where we still have a rougher scratch pattern, and just for instructional purposes, there's a burr along the entire side on this side. I'm gonna put once more Sharpie on, just a couple lines that allow me to see. Put it on the base of the knife, sharpened by pushing the handle down, but the bevel also at the right angle. Keeping the bevel angle the same, just lifting up the handle straight, making sure that I'm still having the right angle of the bevel. Can just stop, wiggle back and forth until I'm back flat if I'm not 100% sure. And then as you can see, we removed the Sharpie evenly along the entire edge. There's none left, it's all gone. Which means I worked the entire side. Checking the burr on this side is gone. It's back on the other side, which means I pushed it back over. It's getting thinner and thinner. I can move on, therefore, to the next grit. Here this is 3000. You see how quickly that works. There you go. I'll put the Sharpie on one more time. All the way to the edge. That's very important to know that I'm hitting the edge on every single, on every side. The very edge, not just the back of the bevel. So we're starting on my side again. As I'm coming towards the tip, I wiggle, find the bevel again nicely. Just lift up. Very small movements. And then the very back base of the blade. Alright, so on this side we removed Sharpie everywhere except for the very bottom there. This means I need to push the handle down a little bit more to really get the very bottom. The edge. And now it is practically gone. Switching to the other side, I should feel a little bit of a burr now here. Yeah, it's getting finer and finer. I can feel it, but it's gone. Like, it's very fine by now, of course. And it's gone on the other side, of course, not here anymore. Switch. Bevel flat, handle down. Keeping the bevel pressed against, firmly pressed against the material, lifting all the way until I hit the tip, and then coming back down. Here we go, all of the Sharpie is removed perfectly on this side again. None of it is left. There's no burr over here anymore. Yep, gone. You can just ever so slightly feel it on the other side. Which means now I'm just gonna give this one more go. What I can also do is just pull towards me, and as I'm pulling, I'm lifting the handle up, but the bevel stays flat against the paper. So it's more like a stropping motion, which can also help refine the pattern a little bit more. Just a different way to sharpen with sandpaper. We can't push towards, of course, because the sandpaper would get cut. I'm moving on to 7000 right over here. Just a little piece, usually not needed. We don't need much long on it because as we usually need the most time, as you could tell, on the very rough paper, and as we're going through the different grits, the amount of time needed to refine it becomes shorter and shorter. Colored both sides again, starting on my side. Really paying attention now, the blade is already very, very sharp. And if I'm not careful, I'm cutting into the paper. Very nice. All the Sharpie's gone, and we really have already a mirror polish on here. Switching to the other side. And with just a couple pulls, all the Sharpie's gone, except for the very bottom here. Gotta give this another go. Now that's nearly gone. Couple stabs, really pushing the handle downwards, and yeah, now it's gone. So here we go. This side also completely removed. Ever so slightly still a burr there. On the other side, of course, now that's exactly what we want. We don't want to carve the burr off against wood because sometimes the burr gets ripped off with the edge, so it just takes it with it basically. What I rather do is just bring out one of my strops. The leather is rather thin, not too thick on it, probably a millimeter. So it just, what it does is, as we pull through, the leather gives a little bit, you know, just goes down. And this part here is kind of putting it ever so slightly, really on a microscopic level, a little bit of a convex in. But this convex is so small that you can actually not really see it. In the right light, you see a fraction of a millimeter of a different reflection, very much against the edge. But that's how it's done by Nick Westerman, for example, and we talked about that at length. It is an absolute micro convex bevel that is just taking the last little bit of I mean, there is already nothing anymore as far as toothiness on there, but on a microscopic level there still is. So same thing, I'm starting with Nick Westerman's gray compound. I've used a lot of compound around the world, and this is the best that I've come across. His combination of gray and white, which is kind of a medium coarse and an ultra fine. And there is no reason for me to try anything else anymore after trying so much and just loving this stuff. So I just ordered it from Hyun & Hone as well. Couple pulls, starting at the base, lifting up, and then lifting up high like this. Not to do any convexing, I just want to lift off straight, basically. When you sharpen, you can also, of course, count reps. I kind of do that by feeling now, but you can also just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on one side and on the other side, and then 5, and then 5, and then 3, 3, and 1, and 1. That just means that you are really evenly usually removing material from each side. So that can be very helpful as well, just counting your pulls. Feeling very good already, and now I'm switching to the super fine side. And finally, the pebbles are completely flat against the material. You can still see how I'm using my hands together. This elbow is resting, the other elbow is really tight against my body. I don't want to roll the edge at this point. Yeah, this is a very, very fine edge now. Difference between sharpening and honing, in my opinion, is that sharpening always removes a lot of material and has a quite coarse scratch pattern, and then honing is something that's just really the refinement stage. When you're carving a lot, you're gonna be doing honing a lot more than sharpening. Sharpening is really needed when you convex stuff off too much, round it off the edge, or you have some edge damage and you really have to do some reprofiling. So that's why stropping is so great, and having thin leather, because it's ensuring that you're not doing too much convexing. Now we've got a very keen edge. Let's grab a piece of paper here, and as you can see, through the entire edge, there's no nicks or anything. The paper will tell you. And even more than that, I can cut circles and snaky lines, which is really difficult to do. So yeah, this is it. I hope that you enjoyed this part of the sharpening episode. Having sharp blades like this is absolutely crucial for a fine glass-like finish on your spoons. So make sure to keep your knives sharp like this, keep them honed, and it's going to be also a much safer and much more enjoyable carving experience. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Thanks very much for the continuous support, and I'm gonna make sure to come to you with more videos on YouTube, of course, that you are supporting so generously, and here on Patreon next month again, as always. If you have any questions, let me know, and until then, stay safe, and I'm gonna see you. Cheers.